This video contains audio content only. There are no visual elements or images accompanying the audio. If you're expecting to see video footage, please note that this is an intentional audio-only presentation. We recommend listening to this content rather than watching the screen. Thank you for your understanding and enjoy the audio. Welcome to this exploration of one of the most fascinating and secretive processes in the world, the election of a new pope. In this accessible and engaging series, we'll delve into the intricate world of the Vatican, examining the forces that shape the papacy and the individuals who aspire to lead the Catholic Church. The papacy of Pope Francis has been a period of significant change and, at times, controversy. His emphasis on humility, his focus on the marginalized, and his calls for a more inclusive church have resonated with many, while also generating resistance from more traditional sectors. As his papacy progresses, the question of who will succeed him looms large, a question that holds profound implications for the future of the Catholic Church. In this series, we'll explore the key themes that will shape the next papal conclave. We'll examine the legacy of Pope Francis, his reforms, his challenges, and the impact he has had on the Church. We'll delve into the changing demographics of the Catholic Church, the rise of the Global South, and the increasing influence of cardinals from outside Europe. We'll analyze the strategic moves Pope Francis has made in appointing new cardinals, the potential implications of these appointments, and how they might influence the outcome of the conclave. We'll also introduce you to the leading contenders, the papabili, the men who are considered the most likely successors to Saint Peter. We'll examine their backgrounds, their theological perspectives, their political positions, and their potential visions for the Church. We'll explore the dynamics of the conclave itself, the secretive process by which the cardinals elect a new pope, the rituals, the traditions, and the behind-the-scenes negotiations that shape the outcome. This series isn't just about names and dates. It's about understanding the forces that shape the papacy, the challenges facing the Catholic Church in the 21st century, and the different paths the Church might take under a new leader. We'll explore the tensions between tradition and reform, between conservatism and progressivism, between the center and the peripheries. We'll examine the Church's relationship with the modern world, its stance on social justice issues, and its role in a globalized society. By the end of this series, you'll have a deeper understanding of the papacy, the conclave, and the individuals who aspire to lead the Catholic Church. You'll be equipped to follow the news and analysis surrounding the next conclave with a more informed and nuanced perspective. You'll gain insights into the challenges and opportunities facing the Church, and the different visions for its future. Join us as we embark on this fascinating journey into the heart of the Vatican, a journey that will illuminate one of the most important and intriguing elections in the world. Chapter 1. The Shadow of Saint Peter. The papacy of Pope Francis, the 266th successor to Saint Peter, has been a time of profound transformation within the Catholic Church, a period etched in humility, a radical focus on the marginalized, and a persistent call for a more inclusive, globally aware church. From the instant he stepped onto the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square and introduced himself as Francis, the world sensed a shift. The name itself, evoking Saint Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals and the environment and renowned for his humility and devotion to the poor, signaled a departure from the traditional trappings of the papacy. This wasn't mere theatrics. Francis's humility is woven into the fabric of his daily life. He rejected the papal apartments in the Apostolic Palace, choosing the simpler Casa Santa Marta, a Vatican guesthouse, as his residence. His vestments are often plain, devoid of the ornate embellishments usually associated with the pontiff. But his simple lifestyle goes beyond symbols. There are countless stories of Francis personally calling ordinary people who have written to him, offering words of comfort and encouragement. He makes impromptu visits to prisons and hospitals, treating inmates and patients with the same dignity and respect he accords world leaders. He has shared meals with the homeless, bringing them into the Vatican for a Christmas lunch and even opening a laundrette and shower facility for them near St. Peter's Square. His outreach to refugees is particularly striking, from his visit to the Greek island of Lesbos, where he brought several Syrian families back to Rome with him, to his more recent efforts to secure humanitarian corridors for those fleeing conflict zones. Francis's approach to the papacy is fundamentally pastoral. He sees himself as a shepherd tending to his flock, prioritizing care and compassion over the exercise of power. This is reflected in his emphasis on mercy and forgiveness, his frequent calls for dialogue and understanding, and his willingness to engage with those who hold differing views. However, his pastoral approach hasn't shielded him from controversy, particularly regarding the ongoing clergy sex abuse crisis. Francis established the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors in 2014, a significant step towards addressing this painful chapter in the Church's history. The commission, composed of both clergy and lay experts, including abuse survivors, was tasked with advising the Pope on best practices for safeguarding children and vulnerable adults. While the commission's creation was initially met with optimism, it has also faced significant challenges and criticism. Some survivors' groups have accused it of lacking real power and failing to hold bishops accountable for their role in covering up abuse. The commission has also experienced internal tensions and resignations, raising questions about its effectiveness. Francis's response to the crisis has differed from his predecessors in some key respects. He has acknowledged the systemic nature of the problem, convened summits of bishops to address the issue, and issued new legislation aimed at holding bishops accountable. However, critics argue that his actions haven't gone far enough, and that the Church still has a long way to go to fully address the crisis and regain the trust of victims. Another defining characteristic of Francis's papacy is his commitment to financial reform. He inherited a Vatican bureaucracy plagued by allegations of corruption and mismanagement, and he has made tackling this issue a priority. One of his most dramatic moves was stripping the Secretariat of State, the Vatican's central administrative body, of its assets and transferring them to a separate office. This unprecedented action was taken after a controversial real estate deal in London raised serious questions about financial irregularities within the Secretariat. Francis has also established a new financial oversight body and implemented stricter accounting procedures. These reforms have met with resistance from some within the Vatican, who see them as a threat to their power and autonomy. This internal struggle over financial control is likely to be a significant factor in the upcoming conclave. Beyond internal reforms, Francis has also sought to reorient the Church's engagement with the world. His encyclical Laudato Si', published in 2015, is a powerful testament to this vision. The encyclical, subtitled, On Care for Our Common Home, is a comprehensive call for environmental stewardship, addressing issues such as climate change, pollution, and the loss of biodiversity. Francis argues that caring for the environment is not just a scientific or political issue, but a moral imperative rooted in our responsibility to God, to future generations, and to all of creation. Laudato Si' has had a profound impact on the global conversation about environmentalism, bringing the moral authority of the Catholic Church to bear on this critical issue. The encyclical reflects Francis's broader vision of social justice, his concern for the poor and marginalized, and his belief in the interconnectedness of all creation. These reforms and pronouncements have not been universally embraced. Francis's papacy has exposed deep divisions within the Church, with conservative elements pushing back against his more progressive stances. They have criticized his emphasis on mercy over doctrine, his openness to dialogue with those who hold differing views on issues such as divorce and homosexuality, and his willingness to challenge traditional power structures within the Vatican. This tension between tradition and reform, between those who embrace Francis's vision and those who yearn for a return to a more conservative approach, is the defining dynamic of the Catholic Church today. This tension will undoubtedly shape the next conclave. Francis has appointed a majority of the cardinals who will elect his successor, and many of them come from the peripheries of the Church, from developing countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. These cardinals, often less connected to the traditional power structures of the Vatican, are more likely to prioritize pastoral concerns and social justice issues, reflecting Francis's own emphasis. However, the dynamics of a conclave are notoriously unpredictable. Personal relationships, behind-the-scenes negotiations, and the search for a candidate who can bridge the divides within the Church will all play a role in determining who emerges as the next pope. Some cardinals have spoken of the need for a figure who can consolidate Francis's reforms while also bringing greater administrative stability to the Vatican. Others have expressed a desire for a more doctrinally conservative approach. The next conclave will be a crucial moment for the Catholic Church, a moment that will determine the direction of the Church for years to come and reveal whether the legacy of Francis will endure or be eclipsed. Chapter 2. The Global Church. The Catholic Church, a faith rooted in ancient traditions and centered for centuries in Europe, is experiencing a seismic demographic shift, a transformation that is reshaping its identity and influencing the very selection of its leader, the successor to Saint Peter. The Church's center of gravity is no longer Rome, but rather a constellation of vibrant communities scattered across the global south. While Europe and North America still retain a significant number of cardinals, the burgeoning Catholic populations of Africa, Asia, and Latin America are increasingly asserting their presence, their voices echoing through the halls of the Vatican and resonating in the selection of the next pope. This shift is not merely anecdotal, it's etched in the very statistics of the faith. In 1910, Europe was home to 65% of the world's Catholics. A century later, that figure had plummeted to just 24%, according to the Pew Research Center. Conversely, the Catholic population in Africa has surged, growing by 21% during the papacy of Benedict XVI alone. Similar growth is evident across Asia and Latin America, where vibrant expressions of faith are reshaping the landscape of Catholicism. Imagine the packed churches in Nigeria, where Cardinal Francis Orins, once a potential papal candidate himself, served as Archbishop of Onitsha, ministering to a rapidly growing community. Picture the fervent celebrations in the Philippines, where Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, known for his charisma and progressive views, captured the attention of the world as the Asian Francis. Consider the nascent but growing communities in places like Mongolia, where Pope Francis's recent visit marked a historic moment for the Church in Central Asia. These are not just isolated instances, they are representative of a broader trend, a surge in faith that is redefining the Church's global presence. This demographic shift has profound implications for the selection of the next pope. For centuries, the papacy was almost exclusively the domain of Italians. The last non-Italian pope before John Paul II was Adrian VI, elected in 1522. This long history of European, and particularly Italian, dominance shaped the Church's identity and priorities. But the election of John Paul II, a Polish cardinal from behind the Iron Curtain, shattered that mold. His election, followed by the German Benedict XVI and the Argentinian Francis, signaled a new era, an acknowledgement that the Church's leadership must reflect its global composition. Pope Francis has accelerated this trend, appointing cardinals from previously overlooked corners of the world. He has bypassed traditional cardinalatial sees in Europe and North America, choosing instead to elevate bishops from smaller dioceses in places like San Diego, Mongolia, and Sudan. He has looked to the peripheries, seeking out pastors who reflect his own emphasis on humility, pastoral care, and a commitment to the poor and marginalized. This has led to the most geographically diverse college of cardinals in history, with increased representation from Asia, Africa, and other regions outside of Europe. At the 2013 conclave that elected Francis, 24% of the electors were Italian and 52% were European. After Francis's appointments, those figures have dropped to historic lows, with Italians comprising just 11% and Europeans 39% of the cardinal electors. This changing composition has the potential to dramatically alter the voting dynamics in a conclave. Cardinals from the developing world bring different perspectives, different priorities, and different experiences to the table. They are less likely to be bound by the traditional power structures of the Vatican and more attuned to the challenges facing the Church in their own regions. The possibility of a pope from the developing world is no longer just a distant prospect, it's a very real possibility. Cardinal Tagle, once a leading contender, embodies the potential of a pope from Asia. His charisma, his focus on evangelization, and his progressive views on social justice resonate with many within the Church. However, his star has seemingly dimmed in recent years, following his removal from leadership positions within the Vatican. Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo of the Democratic Republic of Congo represents another potential path, a pope from Africa. As president of the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, he has emerged as a leading voice for the African Church, challenging the Vatican on issues such as the blessing of same-sex unions. His outspokenness and his willingness to confront traditional power structures have earned him both admiration and criticism. Beyond these two prominent figures, other potential candidates from the developing world have emerged. Cardinal Charles Maung Bo of Myanmar, the former head of the Federation of Asian Bishops' Conferences, is a strong advocate for religious freedom and human rights in a region facing increasing persecution. Cardinal Robert Sarah of Guinea, known for his conservative views, has clashed with Pope Francis on issues such as priestly celibacy and liturgical reform. His candidacy would represent a stark departure from the current direction of the Church. Cardinal Oscar Rodriguez Maradiaga of Honduras, while not strictly from the developing world, has been a key figure in Latin American theology and a prominent voice for social justice. His potential candidacy highlights the continuing influence of Latin America within the Church. The increasing representation of cardinals from outside Europe has the potential to shift the focus of the papacy towards the specific challenges and opportunities facing the Church in the developing world. A pope from Africa might prioritize issues such as poverty, famine, and the ongoing impact of neocolonialism. A pope from Asia could focus on interfaith dialogue, religious freedom, and the challenges of evangelization in rapidly growing communities. A pope from Latin America might emphasize social justice, environmental stewardship, and the Church's role in promoting peace and reconciliation. The next conclave will be a pivotal moment for the Catholic Church. It will reveal whether the Church is truly embracing its global identity, or whether the old power structures of Europe will continue to hold sway. The choice of the next pope will determine the direction of the Church for years to come, shaping its response to the challenges of a rapidly changing world and influencing its relationship with its 1.3 billion members across the globe. It will be a moment of intense scrutiny, a moment when the world watches to see whether the Church will choose a leader who reflects its increasingly diverse and dynamic composition, or one who clings to the traditions of the past. The shadow of St. Peter stretches long, but the future of the Church lies not in Rome alone, but in the vibrant communities of faith that are flourishing across the globe. Chapter 3. The Pope's Gambits. Pope Francis's papacy has been a masterclass in subtle yet impactful maneuvering, a series of strategic gambits designed to reshape the future of the Catholic Church. Nowhere is this more evident than in his appointments to the College of Cardinals, the very body that will elect his successor. These appointments are not random acts. They are calculated moves, each one a piece placed carefully on the chessboard of the Church, intended to influence the direction of the next conclave and, ultimately, the future of the faith. He's playing a long game, a game of influence and legacy, a game with the highest stakes imaginable. The most striking aspect of Francis's strategy is his focus on the peripheries. He has consistently bypassed the traditional centers of power, the Grand Archdioceses of Europe and North America, opting instead to elevate bishops from smaller, less influential dioceses. This is a radical departure from the past, a deliberate attempt to decentralize power and give voice to those who have long been marginalized. Think of Los Angeles, Venice, Milan, historic powerhouses, accustomed to the red hat. Francis has passed them over, shifting his gaze to places like Mongolia, a nation with a tiny Catholic community, appointing its first ever cardinal. He's looked to Sudan, a country grappling with conflict and poverty, and elevated one of its bishops to the college. Even in the United States, his choices have been unconventional, bypassing major archdioceses in favor of places like San Diego. These are not just symbolic gestures, they represent a fundamental shift in the Church's power dynamics. Francis hasn't just focused on geography, he's also prioritized certain qualities in his appointees, qualities that reflect his vision for the Church. He's looked for pastors, men with a proven track record of caring for their flock, men close to the poor and marginalized, men who embody humility and service. He's chosen men like Cardinal Konrad Krajewski, the papal almoner, known for his hands-on work with the homeless in Rome, even going so far as to jump into the city's sewers to restore electricity to a building occupied by squatters. He's appointed men like Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Bologna, a skilled diplomat and peacemaker, entrusted by Francis with the delicate mission of seeking an end to the war in Ukraine, traveling to Moscow and Kyiv in an attempt to broker peace. These are not just appointments, they are endorsements, a clear signal of the kind of leadership Francis believes the Church needs. This emphasis on pastoral experience, humility, and concern for the poor is a direct reflection of Francis's own approach to the papacy. He leads by example, rejecting the opulent papal apartments for the simpler Casa Santa Marta, washing the feet of prisoners and embracing refugees. He is a pope of the people, a pastor who prioritizes mercy and compassion over the exercise of power. His appointments to the College of Cardinals are an attempt to replicate this model, to create a leadership that reflects his own values and priorities. But the papacy is not a monarchy. The pope doesn't appoint his successor. He influences the process, sets the stage, but the final decision rests with the College of Cardinals. And this is where the gambit metaphor becomes particularly apt. A gambit is a chess opening in which a player sacrifices a piece, often a pawn, to gain a strategic advantage. Francis, in appointing cardinals from the peripheries and prioritizing pastoral qualities, is making a calculated gamble. He's betting that these cardinals, though less experienced in the machinations of Vatican politics, will bring a fresh perspective, a renewed focus on the core values of the gospel, to the conclave. However, gambits are inherently risky. The sacrificed piece might not lead to the desired advantage. The opponent might see through the strategy and turn it to their own advantage. The diversity and relative unfamiliarity of the cardinals Francis has appointed could lead to unexpected outcomes. These cardinals, hailing from different continents, speaking different languages, and representing different cultural contexts, may struggle to find common ground. The lack of established relationships and alliances could make the conclave more unpredictable, more susceptible to unforeseen influences. One such influence could be the so-called opposition research, mentioned in some reports. As the conclave approaches, information, both positive and negative, about potential candidates will circulate among the electors. Cardinals will be scrutinized for their perceived strengths and weaknesses, their track records on issues like financial management, the handling of sex abuse cases, and their relations with China. Cardinal Parolin, for example, while a leading contender due to his position as Secretary of State, has been implicated in a controversial financial scandal. Cardinal Tagle, despite his popularity, has seen his influence wane after being removed from key Vatican positions. These perceived flaws, whether real or exaggerated, could be exploited by opposing factions within the conclave. The diversification of the College of Cardinals also has significant implications for the relationship between the Vatican and the global Church. Francis has shifted the balance of power away from Europe, giving greater voice to the concerns of the developing world. This could lead to a greater emphasis on issues like neocolonialism, globalization, and the challenges of evangelization in non-Christian contexts. A pope from Africa, for example, might prioritize addressing poverty and inequality, while a pope from Asia might focus on interfaith dialogue and religious freedom. This shift in focus could reshape the Church's engagement with the world, making it more attuned to the needs and challenges of a globalized society. Francis's appointments are not just about individuals, they are about the future of the Church. He is trying to create a Church that is less hierarchical, more synodal, more representative of its global membership. He's trying to create a Church that is more focused on service, more compassionate, more engaged with the world's problems. He's playing a long game, a game that extends beyond his own papacy, a game that will shape the Church for generations to come. Whether his gambits will pay off remains to be seen. The next conclave will be a crucial test, a moment of truth that will reveal whether his vision for the Church will endure or be overturned. The stakes are high, the players are in place, and the game is about to begin. Chapter 4: The Contenders. The air in the Vatican crackles with anticipation. In the hushed corridors of power, whispers circulate, names are exchanged. The papabili, the potential successors to Saint Peter. Each contender carries a unique blend of experience, theological perspective, and political savvy, each representing a distinct vision for the future of the Catholic Church. The upcoming conclave is not just an election, it's a crossroads, a moment of profound consequence that will shape the direction of the Church for years to come. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, stands as a prominent figure in this papal sweepstakes. A seasoned diplomat, he has spent over a decade navigating the intricate labyrinth of Vatican bureaucracy, serving as Pope Francis's right-hand man. His diplomatic career has been marked by both successes and controversies. He played a key role in brokering the historic rapprochement between the United States and Cuba, a testament to his diplomatic finesse. However, his involvement in the Vatican's controversial agreement with China on the appointment of bishops has drawn criticism, with some accusing him of appeasing the Chinese government at the expense of religious freedom. More recently, he has been embroiled in the Vatican financial scandals, facing allegations of mismanagement and negligence in the wake of a disastrous London real estate deal. Despite these controversies, Papal is widely perceived as a moderate, a bridge builder within a deeply divided church. Some believe he has the potential to repair the damage caused by some of Pope Francis's more controversial actions, appealing to those yearning for a more cautious, less confrontational approach. His deep understanding of the Vatican's inner workings and his extensive network of international contacts make him a formidable contender. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Bologna presents a contrasting figure, a progressive with traditionalist leanings, a man of peace and dialogue. His connection to the Sant'Egidio community, a lay movement known for its work in peacemaking, interfaith dialogue, and humanitarian aid, has profoundly shaped his pastoral approach. He embodies the community's emphasis on dialogue and bridge building, seeking common ground with those who hold differing views. However, his progressive views on social issues, described as blasphemous by some traditionalists within the Church, have also generated controversy. He has been criticized for his perceived leniency towards divorced and remarried Catholics and his support for blessing same-sex unions. Despite these criticisms, Zuppi has earned the trust of Pope Francis, who appointed him as his peace envoy to Ukraine. In this role, Zuppi has embarked on delicate missions to Moscow and Kyiv, seeking to broker a peaceful resolution to the devastating conflict. He has also engaged in quiet dialogues with Chinese authorities, demonstrating his diplomatic skills and his willingness to engage with complex geopolitical challenges. His blend of progressive values and diplomatic experience makes him an intriguing candidate, one who could potentially navigate the Church through a turbulent world. From the heart of Africa emerges Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo, a rising star who has captured global attention with his outspokenness and his unwavering defense of the African Church. As president of the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, he has become a leading voice for the continent's rapidly growing Catholic population. He has not shied away from criticizing the decadent West, accusing Western societies of imposing their values on Africa and undermining traditional African cultures. His leaked remarks about the decline of Western civilization and the rise of Africa have garnered both praise and condemnation. Ambongo played a pivotal role in the African bishops' response to the Fiducia Supplicans document, which opened the door to the blessing of same-sex unions. He led the charge against the document, arguing that it contradicted the teachings of the Church and undermined the moral authority of the African bishops. His strong stance on doctrinal issues and his willingness to challenge the Vatican have solidified his position as a champion of conservative values within the Church. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the former Archbishop of Manila, embodies a different kind of leadership, one marked by charisma, pastoral sensitivity, and a deep commitment to evangelization. Dubbed the Asian Francis, for his warm personality and his focus on the poor and marginalized, he once seemed destined for the papacy. He captivated audiences with his engaging homilies and his down-to-earth approach, connecting with ordinary people in a way that few other cardinals could. However, his star has dimmed in recent years, following his removal from the leadership of Caritas Internationalis, the Church's global charity network, amid allegations of mismanagement. His subsequent appointment as papal envoy to the U.S. National Eucharistic Congress, a high-profile event, has been interpreted by some as an attempt to rehabilitate his image and reassert his papabile status. Despite the setbacks, Tagle remains a popular figure within the Church, admired for his pastoral zeal and his commitment to the gospel. Beyond these four prominent figures, other contenders lurk in the shadows, each waiting for their moment in the conclave spotlight. Cardinal Peter Erdo of Hungary, a respected canon lawyer and a staunch conservative, could appeal to those seeking a return to traditional values and a more doctrinally rigorous approach. Cardinal Mark Ouellet of Canada, a moderate with strong ties to the Vatican, has survived Pope Francis's savage reshuffles, suggesting he possesses a quiet resilience and a knack for navigating the complexities of Vatican politics. Cardinal Robert Serra of Guinea, known for his conservative views and his clashes with Pope Francis, represents a more traditionalist wing of the Church, one that views the current pontiff's reforms with suspicion. His candidacy would mark a dramatic shift in direction, a return to a more conservative, doctrinally focused approach. The possibility of a dark horse candidate emerging from the conclave is always present. Cardinal Parolin, despite his controversies, could be seen as a safe, compromise choice, a figure capable of bridging the divides within the Church. The age of the next pope is another factor to consider. Will the cardinals opt for a younger pope, like Tagle, with the energy and vision to lead the Church into a new era? Or will they choose an older, more experienced figure, like Turkson or Zuppi, perhaps anticipating a shorter reign? The historical dominance of Italians in the papacy raises the question of whether the cardinals might once again choose an Italian, seeking stability and continuity in a time of change. The changing demographics of the College of Cardinals add another layer of complexity to the conclave. The increased representation of cardinals from the developing world could lead to the election of a non-European pope, a historic moment that would reflect the Church's growing global presence. A pope from Africa, Asia, or Latin America would bring a new perspective to the papacy, prioritizing the concerns and challenges facing the Church in those regions. The conclave is a crucible, a melting pot of personalities, ideologies, and ambitions. The cardinals will gather in secrecy, their deliberations hidden from the world, their votes cast in silence. The outcome is uncertain, the possibilities endless. Will the next pope be a reformer or a traditionalist? A diplomat or a pastor? A bridge builder or a defender of the faith? The answer lies in the hands of the cardinal electors, the men who hold the future of the Church in their votes. The world watches and waits, anticipating the white smoke that will signal the election of a new pope, a new shepherd for the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. The drama unfolds, the stakes are high, and the future of the Church hangs in the balance. Chapter 5. Within the Sistine Chapel. The world outside fades. The heavy wooden doors of the Sistine Chapel swing shut, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden silence. The cardinal electors, princes of the Church, are sealed within, cut off from the relentless hum of modern life, their task as ancient and weighty as the stones beneath their feet. Michelangelo's frescoes, vibrant and awe-inspiring, bear silent witness, their depiction of creation, judgment, and redemption a constant reminder of the gravity of the moment. The conclave has begun. Secrecy is paramount. Sworn oaths of confidentiality bind each elector. Electronic devices are surrendered, the digital tether to the outside world severed. Technicians sweep the chapel for bugs, ensuring no electronic eavesdropping can penetrate the sacred space. Jamming devices block any stray signals, creating an informational vacuum, a sanctuary from the relentless media glare. The cardinals are alone with their consciences, their prayers, and the weight of their decision. They are choosing not just a leader for the Catholic Church, but a global figure, a shepherd for a flock of over 1 billion souls, a successor to Saint Peter, the rock upon which Christ built his Church. The ritual unfolds, steeped in centuries of tradition. The cardinals process to their designated places, their red robes a splash of color against the chapel's muted grandeur. The master of ceremonies intones the ancient prayers, the Latin words resonating through the hallowed space. The ballots are distributed, plain slips of paper upon which each elector inscribes his chosen name, a secret held close, a whisper of hope for the future. The ballots are folded, collected in a silver urn, the clinking sound amplified in the hushed chamber. The scrutineers, chosen from among the electors, take their places, their faces solemn, their movements precise. They carefully unfold each ballot, reading aloud the name inscribed within, a litany of hopes and aspirations. The votes are tallied, the tension mounting with each count. If no candidate achieves the required 2/3 majority, the ballots are burned with damp straw, sending thick black smoke billowing from the Sistine Chapel chimney, a somber signal to the waiting world. Habemus Papam non. We do not have a pope. This ritual of hope and disappointment, of black smoke and anticipation, can continue for days, even weeks. The cardinals, confined within the chapel walls, cast up to 4 ballots each day, the pressure intensifying with each inconclusive vote. The conclave becomes a crucible, forging alliances and testing loyalties. The dynamics are complex, often unpredictable. National blocs exert their influence, Italian cardinals vying to reclaim the papacy after decades of non-Italian leadership. Cardinals from the developing world seeking a voice for the peripheries. American cardinals navigating the tensions between their local concerns and the global church. History is replete with examples of dark horse candidates emerging from the conclave's shadows. John XXIII, elected in 1958, was seen as a transitional figure, an elderly cardinal chosen to provide stability after the long reign of Pius XII. Yet, he surprised the world by convening the Second Vatican Council, a transformative event that reshaped the Church for the 20th century. Similarly, the election of Karol Wojtyla, a Polish cardinal from behind the Iron Curtain, as John Paul II in 1978, stunned the world. His election, at a time of Cold War tensions, signaled a new era for the Church, a shift towards the East, a recognition of the global nature of the faith. Compromise choices, born from the need for a two-thirds majority, are also a recurring theme in conclave history. The election of Pope Francis himself could be seen as a compromise. He was not a frontrunner going into the conclave, but his pastoral approach, his humility, and his focus on the poor resonated with a broad spectrum of cardinals, allowing him to emerge as a unifying figure in a divided church. The modern media, with its 24/7 news cycle and its insatiable appetite for information, has profoundly impacted the conclave process. The constant speculation, the instant analysis, the relentless focus on the cardinals' every move creates an unprecedented level of pressure. The cardinals, though sequestered within the chapel, are acutely aware of the world watching, waiting, analyzing every puff of smoke. This external pressure can both accelerate and complicate the process, pushing the cardinals towards a swift resolution while simultaneously intensifying the weight of their decision. The tension between the desire for a quick conclusion and the gravity of their task is palpable, a constant undercurrent in the conclave's deliberations. Then, a moment of transformation. The damp straw is added to the burning ballots, but this time, the smoke that rises is not black, but white. Habemus Papam, we have a pope. The news ripples through the Vatican, then across Rome, and finally around the world, carried on the wings of modern communication. In St. Peter's Square, the throngs of pilgrims erupt in cheers, a wave of emotion sweeping through the crowd. Bells peal from St. Peter's Basilica, their joyous clangor proclaiming the news to the city and beyond. The world holds its breath, waiting for the new pope to appear on the balcony, a moment of global significance, a moment that transcends the boundaries of faith and culture. The senior cardinal deacon steps onto the balcony, his voice trembling with emotion, and announces the name of the chosen one. A collective gasp rises from the crowd, a mixture of surprise, anticipation, and hope. The new pope emerges, his face etched with humility, his eyes scanning the sea of faces below. He raises his hand in blessing, a silent acknowledgement of the weight of his new office, the responsibility he now bears. He is not just the leader of the Catholic Church, he is a figure of international importance, a symbol of hope for millions around the world. The white smoke, once a wisp of possibility, has solidified into a new reality, a new chapter in the long and storied history of the papacy. The conclave is over, but the journey has just begun. Chapter 6. Synod and Smoke, a conclave preview. The Synod on Synodality, convened by Pope Francis, wasn't just a global gathering of bishops and laity. It was a crucible forging the very qualities desired in his successor. The Synod's themes, dialogue, openness, and lay participation, became more than mere talking points. They transformed into criteria, shaping the invisible yet palpable currents influencing the next papal conclave. The discussions, at times contentious, surrounding women in the Church, LGBTQ+ inclusion, and church governance, were not abstract theological musings. They were, in essence, a preview of the conclave's core debates. The Synod wasn't just about discerning the future direction of the Church, it was about discerning the qualities of the next pope. For the cardinals present, nearly half of the electors, the Synod became a stage, a platform to subtly showcase their vision and, perhaps, their papabile credentials. Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican's Secretary of State, a man often associated with Pope Francis's more moderate stance, surprised many with his vocal defense of traditional doctrine during the Synod. This seemingly contradictory position, a blend of loyalty to the current pontiff and a nod to the Church's traditional wing, positioned him as a potential bridge builder, a figure capable of uniting the Church's disparate factions. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi of Bologna, known for his progressive views and his close ties to the influential Sant'Egidio community, used the synod to further enhance his already prominent profile. His role as Pope Francis's peace envoy to Ukraine, shuttling between Moscow and Kyiv in a quest for peace, elevated his stature on the global stage. His presence at the synod, coupled with his diplomatic efforts, presented him as a man of action, a capable leader comfortable navigating complex political and ecclesiastical landscapes. However, his progressive leanings, while admired by some, could also be a liability, potentially alienating more conservative factions within the conclave. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, once dubbed the Asian Francis, arrived at the synod with a point to prove. His removal from the leadership of Caritas Internationalis, the Church's global charity network, had cast a shadow over his once bright papal prospects. The synod provided an opportunity to reframe impressions, to showcase his enduring charisma and his unwavering commitment to evangelization. His active participation in the synod's discussions, his passionate advocacy for the poor and marginalized, and his infectious enthusiasm reminded the assembled cardinals of his potential, his ability to connect with ordinary people and inspire a new generation of Catholics. Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo of the Democratic Republic of Congo, a rising star in the African Church, brought a distinct perspective to the synod, a voice from the peripheries, a challenge to the Western-centric Church. His past remarks about the decadent West had created some friction, and the synod presented an opportunity to either smooth over those differences or further consolidate his support among non-Western cardinals. His strong stance against the Vatican's document on blessing same-sex unions, a position that resonated with many African bishops, solidified his position as a champion of conservative values. The synod wasn't just about individual cardinals. It was about the interplay of personalities, the formation of alliances, the subtle shifts in power dynamics. Cardinal Mario Grech, the General Secretary of the Synod of Bishops, and Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich of Luxembourg, the General Relator, played pivotal roles in shaping the synod's agenda. Their influence over the discussions, their ability to steer the conversation towards certain themes and away from others, could significantly impact their own papal prospects. A synod perceived as successful, one that fosters genuine dialogue and leads to meaningful reforms, could boost their standing within the conclave. Conversely, a synod perceived as divisive or unproductive could damage their chances. Other prominent cardinals, such as Cardinals Christoph Schönborn of Austria, Peter Erdo of Hungary, and Mark Ouellet of Canada, used the synod to articulate their visions for the Church. Schönborn, known for his moderate stance on issues like priestly celibacy, emphasized the need for the Church to address the sex abuse crisis and engage with the challenges of the modern world. Erdo, a respected canon lawyer and a staunch conservative, reiterated his commitment to traditional doctrine and his concern for the erosion of religious values in Western societies. Ouellet, a seasoned Vatican insider, emphasized the importance of unity and stability within the Church, positioning himself as a potential bridge builder between the progressive and conservative wings. The synod's potential outcomes, the degree to which it leads to dramatic changes within the Church, became a key factor in the cardinals' pre-conclave calculations. A synod that embraces significant reforms, such as a greater role for women or a more inclusive approach to LGBTQ+ Catholics, could embolden progressive cardinals to push for a candidate who reflects those values. Conversely, a synod that reaffirms traditional doctrine and resists major changes could strengthen the hand of conservative cardinals, leading them to seek a candidate who will maintain the status quo. The interactions and discussions among cardinals during the synod were not just about theological debates. They were about building relationships, forging alliances, and subtly promoting candidacies. Informal gatherings, whispered conversations in the hallways, and shared meals provided opportunities for cardinals to get to know each other, to assess each other's strengths and weaknesses, and to gauge the level of support for different potential candidates. These behind-the-scenes interactions, often more revealing than the formal synod proceedings, provided valuable insights into the emerging alliances and divisions within the College of Cardinals, offering a glimpse into the complex dynamics that would shape the upcoming conclave. The synod concluded, but its impact lingered, its themes resonating in the minds of the cardinals as they prepared for the momentous task of electing a new pope. The synod had not just been a discussion, it had been a rehearsal, a preview of the debates and deliberations that would soon unfold within the Sistine Chapel. The smoke, when it finally rose, would not just signal the election of a new pope, it would signal the culmination of the synod, the Church's response to the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly changing world. The potential election of a new pope is a pivotal moment for the Catholic Church, a time of reflection on its past and anticipation of its future. The papacy of Pope Francis has been marked by a distinct emphasis on humility, service to the marginalized, and a more inclusive approach, often generating both enthusiastic support and staunch resistance. As the world watches for the telltale white smoke, the question of who will succeed him carries immense weight, impacting not just the 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, but also the broader global landscape. Several key themes have emerged as crucial factors in the upcoming papal conclave. The changing demographics of the Church, with the rise of the Global South, are reshaping the College of Cardinals and introducing new perspectives into the selection process. Pope Francis's strategic appointments of cardinals from the peripheries, often bypassing traditional power centers, further amplify these shifts. These appointments reflect his vision for a more decentralized, pastorally focused church, but also introduce an element of unpredictability into the conclave. The recent Synod on Synodality, with its emphasis on dialogue and lay participation, has served as a testing ground for these emerging dynamics, subtly influencing the qualities sought in the next pope. The potential candidates represent a diverse range of backgrounds and theological perspectives. Some, like Cardinal Parolin, embody a more moderate, diplomatic approach, while others, like Cardinal Zuppi, are known for their progressive views and commitment to social justice. Figures like Cardinal Ambongo represent the growing influence of the African Church and a more conservative theological stance. The possibility of a dark horse candidate emerging from the conclave adds another layer of intrigue. The broader implications of this papal election extend beyond the Church's internal affairs. The next pope will inherit a world grappling with complex challenges: climate change, poverty, war, and increasing secularization. The Church's stance on these issues, its role in international diplomacy, and its engagement with other faiths will be shaped by the vision and leadership of the new pontiff. The choice between continuity and change, between tradition and reform, will resonate far beyond the Vatican walls. What are your thoughts on the upcoming conclave? Who do you think will emerge as the next pope, and what impact will their leadership have on the Church and the world? Share your insights and predictions in the comments below. We encourage you to like and subscribe for more content exploring the fascinating intersection of faith, culture, and global affairs. Don't forget to suggest topics for future videos. Your curiosity fuels our exploration. The journey of understanding is a continuous one, and we invite you to join us as we delve deeper into the complexities of our world.